I never imagined my life would take this turn. My name is Rita, and this is my journey. I was born to hardworking farmers who instilled in me the importance of diligence from an early age. Our days began before dawn, tending to animals and crops. Life was simple then. I would go to school, return home, and help out on the farm. Weekends were devoted to family time and catching up on chores. I didn't know any other way of life, nor did I want to. Everything changed when I graduated high school. My parents, bless their hearts, dreamed of more for me than a life on the farm. Rita, my dad said one evening as we gathered around the dinner table, your mom and I think you should go to college. Just like that, my world expanded. I packed my bags and moved to the city, a place so foreign it felt like another planet. College was an adventure. The classes were engaging, but it was the people who truly opened my eyes. I met kids from diverse backgrounds, each with dreams and ambitions I had never considered. And then I met Jack. We crossed paths in my second year. He was charming, confident, and unlike any farm boy I knew. Jack had a clear vision for his future, or so I thought. Life's too short to waste working yourself to the bone, he'd say, lounging on the grass outside the library. We should enjoy ourselves while we're young. I was captivated. Here was someone who viewed life as an adventure, not just an endless cycle of chores. We began dating, and before long, marriage became a topic of conversation. When I told my parents, they were cautious. They wanted to meet Jack, to get to know the man who had stolen their daughter's heart. He seems nice enough, Dad said after Jack's first visit to the farm, but there's something, I don't know. Just be careful, Rita. I dismissed his concerns. What did my old-fashioned father know about modern love? Jack was perfect, and we were destined for a perfect life together. My parents, bless them, paid for our wedding and even helped us secure an apartment in the city. We want you to have a good start, Mom said, her eyes misty. Thanks, Mom and Dad, I replied, hugging them tightly. I promise I'll make you proud. As Jack and I stood at the altar, exchanging vows and rings, I believed my life was set. I had a loving husband, a good job in the city, and a bright future ahead. The first couple of years of our marriage seemed fine, at least that's what I thought. Both of us were working, and we had settled into a comfortable routine. However, looking back, I can now see the cracks that were beginning to form. Do we really have to visit your parents' farm this weekend? Jack would complain every time I suggested it. It smells like manure, and your dad always wants me to help with something. I would sigh and try to reason with him. They're my family, Jack. They've done so much for us. Fine, he would grumble, but I'm not shoveling any cow crap. I brushed it off as typical city boy squeamishness. After all, I had grown up with those smells and chores. But now, I wonder if I should have seen it as a red flag. 2 years into our marriage, I was beginning to realize that things were not as perfect as I had thought. When I found out I was pregnant, I was over the moon. My parents were ecstatic. A grandchild, Mom squealed over the phone. Oh, Rita, we're so happy for you. But Jack's reaction was far less enthusiastic. A kid already? I guess that's okay, he said, his tone flat. I chalked it up to nerves, hoping he would warm up to the idea of being a father. My parents, bless their hearts, continued to support us wholeheartedly. They bought us a car and paid for vacations. I was grateful for their generosity, but Jack seemed to take it for granted. Of course they're helping us, he'd say. That's what parents do. When our son Tommy was born, my heart swelled with love all over again. But Jack struggled. Can't you keep that kid quiet? He complained when Tommy cried at night. Some of us have to work in the morning. I bit my tongue, reminding myself that we were both adjusting to parenthood. Life went on, and we visited the farm when we could. However, Jack's reluctance grew with each trip. Your dad wants me to help fix the tractor again, he'd grouse. I'm not a mechanic, for Christ's sake. I would watch my dad and Jack working together, both stained and sweaty. Dad would patiently explain each step while Jack grimaced and fumbled with the tools. Then tragedy struck. Within a year, both my parents passed away. I was devastated. They're gone, Jack. I sobbed into the shoulder. I can't believe they're gone. He patted my back awkwardly. It'll be okay. At least they left us the farm. His words jolted me. The farm, my family's legacy, and all he could think about was what we had inherited. In the midst of my grief, Jack dropped a bombshell. We should sell the farm, he said one night over dinner. We could buy a big house in the city and live like kings. I wanted to argue and fight for my family's legacy, but I was exhausted, worn down by grief and the demands of motherhood. Wasn't a wife supposed to support her husband's decisions? Okay, I said quietly. If you think it's best. Just like that, with a few signatures on some papers, my family's history was sold off to the highest bidder. The money went into our joint account, and Jack was like a kid in a candy store. We're set for life, Rita, he crowed. No more slaving away at work. We can do whatever we want. I nodded and smiled, trying to ignore the hollow feeling in my chest. This was what Jack wanted, and as his wife, I felt I had to support him, right? Life after selling the farm was different. The money cushioned us nicely, and I'll give Jack that. We didn't have to work as hard anymore. We both cut back to part-time hours, and for a while, it felt like we were living the dream. But as the years went by, things began to shift. As the years passed, I began to notice a troubling shift in Jack. He had never been a hard worker, but now he seemed to lose all motivation. He quit jobs at the drop of a hat, always with some excuse ready. That boss was a jerk, he'd say. They expected too much. I'm not a slave, you know. I tried to reason with him. Jack, we can't live off the farm money forever. We need to think about our future. He would wave me off, saying, Relax, Rita. We're set for life. Why work ourselves to death? Meanwhile, our son Tommy was growing up quickly. He graduated high school, then college, and before I knew it, he was working and living on his own. I was proud of him, but I miss having him around. One day, while flipping through the newspaper, a familiar name caught my eye. It was an article about a successful concrete production plant owned by Jack's Uncle Robert. Jack, I called out. Did you see this article about your Uncle Robert? His face darkened. I don't want to hear about that old tyrant, he snapped. I knew the story, at least Jack's version of it. His parents had died when he was young, leaving him in the care of his uncle. Jack had always told me how Robert had been overbearing and controlling, trying to force him into the family business. He never listened to what I wanted, Jack had said years ago. It was always about what he thought was best. So I left and started my own life. Looking at Jack now, lounging in his robe at 2 in the afternoon, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to the story. Maybe it's time to make peace, I suggested gently. It's been years, Jack. People change. Jack's reaction was explosive. Make peace with that control freak. No way in hell, Rita. Drop it. I let the conversation go, but it left me unsettled. There was so much anger and resentment in him. I began to wonder what else Jack was carrying around, what other parts of himself he was hiding. That quiet Sunday afternoon, I overheard Jack on the phone. His voice was curt, dismissive. I'm not interested in his life, and it doesn't concern me, he said sharply before hanging up. My curiosity got the better of me. Who was that, honey? His face was a mask of indifference. Hospital. My uncle's sick. If he kicks the bucket, at least I'll finally get something out of him. I stared at him, shocked. Jack, that's a terrible thing to say. He raised you. Yeah, and made my life hell, he snapped. I'm not going to see him. End of story. Watching Jack settle back into his armchair with the remote in hand, something inside me snapped. This wasn't the man I married. This wasn't the person I thought I knew. Without a word to Jack, I went to her bedroom and called Tommy. Hey, sweetie, I said when he picked up. How would you feel about meeting your great uncle? Tommy was surprised but agreed readily. An hour later, we were walking into the hospital, my heart pounding. The ICU was a maze of beeping machines and hushed voices. There, in a bed surrounded by monitors, lay Jack's Uncle Robert. He looked small and frail, nothing like the tyrannical figure Jack had described. When we entered and introduced ourselves, his eyes filled with tears. Rita, Tommy, he said, his voice weak but warm. Oh, I've wanted to meet you for so long. Over the next hour, Robert shared his side of the story, how he had taken Jack in after his parents died and raised him as his own. I love that boy, Robert said, his voice cracking. I had always wanted Jack to have everything, a chance to carry on the family business, to build a good life. But it seemed Jack had other plans. He claimed he didn't want the responsibility. I don't want to work hard like you do, staying up nights worrying about the business, he said. As Robert spoke, a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. His words painted a picture I recognized all too well. Jack demanded that I sell the business, shaking his head. He wanted me to set him up with a monthly allowance, an apartment, and a car. He said I owed him a carefree life. I glanced at Tommy and saw my own shock reflected in his eyes. That's not how life works, I told Jack firmly. Robert continued, insisting that money needed to be earned. I pleaded with Jack to stay and learn the business, but he grew angry, proclaiming he'd find a rich wife and never have to work a day in his life. As I sat in Uncle Robert's hospital room, memories from the past decade began flooding back, fitting together like pieces of a puzzle. I saw our life together in a harsh new light. Jack had never held a job for long. He always chose part-time work, frequently calling in sick or taking countless days off. I had attributed it to stress, to him being a free spirit. But now I saw the truth. Life is for pleasure, Rita, he'd always say. Why kill ourselves working? My stomach churned as the realization hit me. Jack hadn't married me for love. He had married me for my family's money, for the comfortable life he thought I could provide. I was just a means to an end. The rich bride he promised his uncle he'd find. Tears welled in my eyes as the weight of this truth settled over me. Our entire life together, our marriage, our family, had been built on a lie. Uncle Robert's voice pulled me from my thoughts. I'm so sorry, he said weakly. I won't be able to leave anything to you or Tommy. I wanted to. It's okay, I replied, squeezing his hand. We don't need anything. I had plans, Robert continued, growing agitated. A new project. It would have changed everything. But I ran out of time. Suddenly, his face contorted in pain, and the machines around him began to beep urgently. You need to leave, a nurse said, rushing in. A few days later, the call came. Uncle Robert had passed away. When I told Jack, his reaction made my blood run cold. Finally, he exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. Took that old bastard long enough. I stared at him in disgust. Jack, he was your uncle. He raised you. Jack waved me off dismissively. Yeah, so when's the funeral? Do we have to go to that? In the end, Jack didn't attend. Tommy and I organized the funeral ourselves, a small, dignified affair that I hoped would make Uncle Robert proud. While I grieved for a man I barely knew, my husband was at home gleefully calculating his newfound wealth. The estate's got to be worth at least $10 million, he mused, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. I overheard Jack on the phone when I got home, exclaiming, can you believe it? I'm rich. I watched him strut around our house, boasting about his inheritance, and felt nothing but revulsion. This wasn't the man I thought I married. This was a stranger wearing my husband's face. Then things took a turn for the worse. You know, Rita, Jack said one evening, his eyes icy, you're getting kind of old for me. I think I'm ready for an upgrade. I couldn't believe my ears. Excuse me. He shrugged, not even bothering to hide his indifference. You heard me. I'm rich now. I can do better. Over the next few weeks, Jack's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He'd stay out late, stumbling home in the early hours, reeking of booze and perfume. More than once, I spotted lipstick stains on his collar. Each time I confronted him, he brushed me off, sneering, mind your own business. You should be grateful I come home at all. One night, as I lay awake, listening to Jack stumble in at 3:00 a.m., I realized something had to change. I couldn't continue living like this. I deserved better. But more importantly, I needed to uncover the truth about Jack, about the inheritance, and about the life I thought we built together. The morning after yet another night of Jack coming home at dawn, I'd had enough. Where were you? I demanded, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. Jack squinted at me through bloodshot eyes, narrowing them in disdain. None of your damn business, Rita. You should be grateful I even come back. His words struck me like a slap. Grateful? Is that what you think our marriage is? Ignoring my question, Jack fixed me with a calculating gaze. So, how much is left from your parents' inheritance? We must have some savings, right? His sudden change of topic caught me off guard. Jack, we've spent it all. The accounts are empty. His face twisted into a mask of disgust. Empty? You've got to be kidding me. He paced the room, muttering to himself before turning back to me, ice colder than before. Well, I guess that's it then. I'm done here. Done with you. Before I could respond, the front door swung open, and Tommy walked in, his eyes widening as he took in the scene. Instantly, Jack's demeanor shifted. He plastered on a fake smile and approached our son. Tommy, my boy, just the person I wanted to see. I need you to sign something for me, Jack said, pulling a document from his pocket and thrusting it at Tommy. It's just a formality. You're renouncing any claim to Uncle Robert's estate. Since there's no will, It all comes to me anyway. Tommy looked at me, confusion evident on his face. I nodded, and without hesitation, he took the paper and signed it. Jack's grin was triumphant as he snatched the document back. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, he turned to me, all pretense stripped away. "I want a divorce," he announced, his voice cold and flat. "I never loved you, Rita. I just tolerated you for your parents' money. But now I'm rich. I don't need you anymore." His words struck me like physical blows, even though I had suspected it. Hearing it laid out so brutally felt like a gut punch. "I'm moving to Uncle Robert's house," Jack continued, already pulling out a suitcase. "Don't try to contact me. It's over." And just like that, he was gone. 30 years of marriage packed away in a suitcase as he walked out the door. I stood there, frozen, trying to process what had just happened. It felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. "Mom," Tommy's voice was soft and concerned. "Are you okay?" I turned to my son, my rock, and felt the dam break. Tears streamed down my face as Tommy wrapped his arms around me. "It's okay, Mom," he murmured, holding me tight. "We'll get through this. You're strong. You'll be okay." As I clung to my son, sobbing into his shoulder, a small part of me marveled at the man he had become. Kind, compassionate, everything his father was not. "You're the best thing he ever did," I whispered to Tommy. "The only good thing to come out of this marriage." Tommy squeezed me tighter, and in that moment, I knew that no matter what happened next, I wasn't alone. I had my son, and together we would face whatever came our way. The weeks following Jack's departure were a blur of pain and disbelief. I tried to keep my head held high and focus on moving forward, but it wasn't easy, especially when Jack seemed determined to flaunt his new life in my face. It started with the Facebook posts, pictures of Uncle Robert's mansion. Now Jack's new home flooded his timeline. I tried to ignore it and concentrate on healing, but then the photos changed. A young woman began appearing in them, blonde and beautiful, barely older than our son. In one photo, Jack had his arm around her, both of them grinning at the camera. The caption made my stomach churn. "Meet my fiancé, Candy. Upgrade complete." The calls started almost immediately. Friends, acquaintances, even Tommy's old school teachers. Everyone asking questions I couldn't and didn't want to answer. "Rita dear, is everything okay? We saw Jack's posts. What's going on? Are you and Jack really?" I couldn't take it anymore. The humiliation, the constant reminders of Jack's betrayal were too much. So I did something I never thought I would. I called Jack and asked to meet. After consulting with a lawyer, the day of the meeting finally arrived. I waited at our old favorite cafe, divorce papers in hand. Jack swaggered in, candy on his arm. She couldn't have been more than 25, her face caked in makeup, giggling at something Jack whispered in her ear. Well, Jack smirked, pulling out a chair for her. "If it isn't the old ball and chain, Candy, honey, meet Rita, the starter wife." Candy shot me a pitying look that ignited a fire in my chest, but I kept my cool. "I have the divorce papers here," I said, sliding them across the table. "I'm not asking for much, just the house. You can keep everything else." To my surprise, he picked up the pen without argument. "Fine. Have your little house. I've got bigger and better things now." He scrawled his signature across the documents, then turned to Candy, his voice dripping with insincerity. "Now I can finally be with someone I truly love, someone worthy of me." I gathered the papers, my hands trembling slightly as I walked out of the cafe. Behind me, I heard Jack's mocking laughter, but I didn't look back. I had what I came for. The next day, I filed for divorce. As I handed the papers to the court clerk, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I could breathe again. Life has a funny way of serving up justice when you least expect it. For me, it came in the form of a headline splashed across the local newspaper. "Local business tycoon's empire crumbles. Nephew left with massive debt." It turned out Uncle Robert had taken out a huge loan just before his death, hoping to expand the business. He'd mentioned something about a new project during our hospital visit, but Tommy and I hadn't grasped the implications at the time. Now it all made sense. I watched from a distance as Jack's new life unraveled around him. He sold the factory, the mansion, the cars, everything, and still owed nearly $1 million. The cherry on top, Candy packed her bags and left the moment she realized Jack wasn't the wealthy catch she thought he was. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a twinge of satisfaction. Karma, it seemed, had finally caught up with Jack. Then one rainy evening, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Jack standing there, looking nothing like the smug, wealthy man who had walked out on me months ago. He was disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed and desperate. "Rita," he said, his voice cracking. "I've been such a fool. I see that now. Please, can we talk?" Against my better judgment, I let him in. For the next hour, I listened as Jack poured out his heart. He told me how he'd lost everything and how he had finally realized what truly mattered in life. "I was wrong, Rita," he said, his eyes pleading. "So wrong. But I see now that you were the only one who ever truly cared for me. The only one I've ever really loved." Then, to my utter disbelief, Jack got down on one knee and produced a small velvet box. "Rita, please give me another chance. Marry me again. Together we can overcome anything." For a moment, I was speechless. Then I did something that surprised even me. I laughed. It started as a small chuckle and grew into full-blown laughter, tears streaming down my face. Jack's expression fell. "What's so funny?" When I finally caught my breath, I looked him straight in the eye. "Oh, Jack, did you really think it would be that easy? That you could treat me like garbage, throw me away, and then come crawling back when things got tough?" His expression darkened. "Now listen here," he snarled, jumping to his feet. "This is my house too. I have rights." I calmly walked to the drawer where I kept our divorce papers, pulling them out and showing him his own signature. "No, Jack, you don't. You signed away any claim to this house. It's mine now. Get out, or I'll call the cops." For a moment, I thought he might argue further, but something in my expression must have told him I meant business. Without another word, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. As soon as he was gone, I called Tommy and told him everything. My wonderful son was supportive as always. "You did the right thing, Mom," he said. "I'm proud of you." Those words meant more to me than he could ever know. In the weeks that followed, I made some big decisions. The house, with all its memories, both good and bad, felt too big for just me, so I sold it and used the money to buy a cozy apartment in a vibrant neighborhood I'd always loved. At 60, I'm finding that life is just beginning. I've started traveling, visiting all the places Jack always promised we would, but never did. I've taken up painting, joined a book club, and even tried my hand at salsa dancing. Every now and then, I catch a glimpse of Jack around town. He looks older now, worn down by his mistakes and misfortunes. Life didn't turn out the way I expected, but you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Because now, for the first time in a long time, I'm truly completely happy, just me.